So the Mariners, they actually had a lead. They had a 3-1 lead. And then what happened was George Kirby was absolutely dealing. He only had 3 strikeouts, but only allowed 4 hits, only 1 earned run. And he was absolutely on fire. Like, it's not like there was any fatigue being shown. And there's that old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Oh, but then Scott Servais pulled out George Kirby after just 6 innings, after just 88 pitches. And then Mariners bullpen completely blew it with Trent Thornton walking a guy. Gabe Spire was struggling. And then the rest was history. And then we also saw a lot of base running errors by the Mariners, which seems to be typical. And now, next thing you know, Astros come away with a victory. And this was one of those games where I can say a complete lost opportunity and just absolutely bad decision-making by our manager, Scott Servais. And it all started when George Kirby, when he was pulled. And then you saw it on the camera that he was actually visibly frustrated when he was being pulled. And that's something to point out, that, which is ironic because last year he said that his limit was 6 innings. But then this game, like, this was the game where he was clearly not on the limit. Like, he was clearly dealing it. Like, you saw Jordan struggling and other players.
Yeah. It's disappointing. You know, you're in a situation where you're up 3-1. Your offense hasn't really been doing much outside of the 2 home runs. So you know this is going to come down to which bullpen is going to be better. But you know, I don't understand the thought process, and it's okay, fine. So if you're going to pull Kirby against a team like the Astros, who know how to win these type of games, you know, you would like to think that you were going to see one of your best relievers out there in the 7th, just so you can bridge the gap. And if that is Spire, or even if it's Stanek, I wouldn't have mind seeing Stanek there in the 7th. Even if he does give up a run, still, that's fine. You still got a 1-run lead, but you're going to be able to figure out a way to bridge the gap, or at least get it to a point in the Astros lineup where it's, you know, that's not going to do damage, so you can hand the ball off to Munoz in the 9th. But you know, the idea you're going to pull George Kirby for Trent Thornton in that situation, and of course what we saw Thornton, you know, he looked like he was trying to be a little too fine, couldn't locate the fastball. And of course, the secondary pitches weren't getting the outside corner, which is probably what they were expecting, considering that, you know, the strike zones that we've seen from umpires this season, usually, you know, they're usually getting those calls on the outside corner of the plate with a good frame job. Thornton wasn't getting it. He walks the leadoff runner there in the 7th, and it just spirals out of control at that point in time. I would say that tonight's loss, you can put it down to mental mistakes. This game was all about mental mistakes. The Mariners made quite a bit. Cal Raleigh with the throw to the throw to third base that gets away, brings in a run. The collision in right field between Julio and Haniger, and then of course you have Josh Rojas making the biggest mental mistake of the night with a fly ball to right field that should have scored him easily, and instead. It's a double play, and that was it. You know what I mean? And this was good baseball, at least until the 7th inning, and then, you know, for 2 innings there, it's just some of the worst mistakes that I've seen on the baseball diamond in quite a long time. So the Mariners beat themselves. This wasn't a Houston win. This was a Mariners loss.
Yeah, and that's one way I hope that the Astro fans understand. And I already have some friends from the Astro fan base. They're saying, yeah, thank you, Scott Servais. Thank you for making such a critical decision. And want to touch further, because I know that there's that whole talk about Tommy John surgery has completely been on the rise. We all know that. We're aware of that. Injuries are a huge thing, and we totally get it. Like, managers should be managing their starters as the best they possibly can to get them rested for a prospective playoff run. But the thing is, like, and yes, like, we get it. The fastballs have a lot of spin, A lot of breaking stuff, a lot of unique pitches. Like, I didn't even know what a sweeper was until this season. That's how new baseball is now with all these pitches, like all these unique pitches. But the thing is, George Kirby didn't even look tired. Like, there was just no reason to pull him. Like, sure, he was approaching 100. He was at 88, and knowing how he pitched, I don't even know if he would even hit 100 anyway. Maybe he would have. But the thing was, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And Scott Servais, he does this whole bullpen management and pulling starters thing. He takes it way too far. Like he coddles up George Kirby to the point where he pretty much made a mind for himself, where he's like, "Oh yeah, I'll just pitch to 6 innings." But this was the game where Kirby should have pitched at least one more inning. He should have went into the 7th inning. And like you said, putting in Trent Thornton exactly wasn't ideal because he's more of a mop-up guy than some that you put in high leverage. Like in the high leverage, you would have put in like Gabe Spire first, or even Ryan Stanek. Sure, and here's the other thing: Ryan Stanek, he knows that offense. He knows the Astros. So the opportunity to put in Stanek was there, and the fact that the Mariners didn't even use him it's just mind-boggling.
Absolutely. Yeah, I just these are the most frustrating losses because the Mariners seem to do this a couple times a year. We saw this in 2023 early in that season, in games where you have a 2-run lead, and instead of going with your best high leverage relievers to bridge the gap to your 9th inning, you're bringing in shaky relievers to begin with that process. And I understand, like you mentioned, you talk about managers protecting starters, but that being said, it's like we're now in May. So this isn't like the first couple weeks of the season where you see 5-inning starts and you see them pulling pitchers with 75 pitches. They're through the rotation at least 5 times by now. So they're stretched out. You know what I mean? This is the month where it matters. I mean, you can chalk up to April with whatever you want, but the month of May is going to be the springboard to the second half of the season. And the thing that you don't want to do is you don't want to lose these type of games and lose momentum of what you build off of the last 5 series. And that's the thing. It's like, okay, runs are at a premium, understood. You have to protect, I don't know how you feel. It's like, I understand why he pulled Kirby at that point in time. Okay, that's fine. But in that situation, you want your best high leverage relievers to at least bridge the gap to the 9th inning. And that's the thing. It's like Trent Thornton is not a guy that you want to bring in that situation. Now, granted, it wasn't all on Thornton because Spire also had a rough outing tonight too. But that being said, it's like, okay, great. If it were me in that situation, I would probably bring Stanek out of the bullpen for the 7th, and at least get that to the 8th. Put Spire in a situation where he's against maybe the bottom third of that lineup, and then let Munoz deal with the heavy hitters in the 9th. But that being said, it's like, if you're going to lose, you're going to lose with your best relievers. You're not going to lose with your worst relievers. And to me, I guess if you're looking for a scapegoat, yeah, I probably would pin Scott Servais on this one, because again, I would have had Kirby starting the 7th.
It's something that should have happened. And the thing is, if Kirby did blow the lead, it would have been like, okay, fine. Like, at least that it was still like the most correct decision to make. Then we can say, well, George Kirby just didn't perform at that point, but Servais didn't even give Kirby the opportunity. And I will point it out. Like, I'm going to look for that clip where George Kirby's looking frustrated, and I'm going to point it out that, yeah, Kirby was not happy about getting pulled. Now, we've talked enough about this game, but I guess I want to say one more thing. Like, it's not like we're asking the Mariners or Scott Servais to make these pitchers pitch 150. Like, we all know that's not going to happen again. Like, we don't see Nolan. We're not going to see like a Nolan Ryan type performance where we're going to see them pitching 200 pitches. Like, we just don't see that happening. But at least if someone's on fire, let him go to 100. At least 100. Like, 100 is not going to tear off his arm. It's not going to cause Tommy John. It won't happen for the most part. We would hope, knock on wood. But that will be my conclusion of this game. And let's take a look and see who is going to be next for the upcoming games. And sadly, this was a wasted Kirby start. And it's going to be for the next game. We've got Logan Gilbert against Valdez, and then Bryce Miller against Brown. And with no Justin Verlander, like, Mariners still have no excuses. Like, they have a chance to win the series. Like, it's not too late or anything, but having that first one would have been really nice.
The problem is now you have to deal with Framber Valdez. It's like tonight, like, even though that Blanco, his numbers look good, you're dealing with a guy who is going to be giving you a lot of fastballs, and you're also going to be able to make him work, which the Mariners did. I thought the Mariners did a good job of making him work. By the time the fourth inning rolled around, he was already at 60 pitches. So they did what they were supposed to do. They just weren't taking advantage of the fastballs when they got him. That's number one. And having to rely on the home run ball to bail you out also played a factor in this game as well too, because it's a situation where you want to manufacture runs early, which require, in the first inning right there, Josh Rojas leads the game off with a single right there. And of course he gets stranded, and it's like the inability to do anything with runners on base. And then of course the big mistake right there in the eighth inning when you get the first two hitters on, and then the Mariners figure out a way to, mistake their way into a double play. And now you got to go tomorrow. You got to go against a guy like Framber Valdez, who has a very good history with the Mariners. And he's a lefty who throws his sinker 43% of the time. Then he mixes in a changeup and a curveball. So you're going to get the off-speed pitches tomorrow. And your only hope is that he doesn't have good command of his sinker, and maybe he leaves a few up, and you might be able to square up a few pitches. But that being said, it's like it becomes even more of a bigger task now, going up against a guy like Framber Valdez, and you're coming off a loss that they should have had. This game should not have been a loss. And these are the things that turn series wins into series losses. And you're just hoping that the Mariners show up tomorrow. But right now it's a problem, because if you're of the opinion that these 5 series wins were smoke and mirrors carried by your pitching, that's going to be highlighted very much tomorrow. If this offense does not figure out a way to learn how to score runs outside of the long ball.
And if you thought that was the first video that I was criticizing Scott Servais, you thought wrong. Here are some more, and enjoy them. But be careful, if you're a Scott Servais fan, this may offend you, and you have been warned.